Hey, my name is Athena, and in this video I'm bringing you my ScoobyDooAthon wrap-up. The ScoobyDooAthon was a read-a-thon that took place from the 2nd to the 15th of September, and it was created by Simone from Simone I and co-hosted with Clint from Read Readers and Emily from Novelle Novels. There were 7 prompts and it was a group book, and I'm just going to go through the prompts and what I read. The first prompt is Scooby Doo, a book or an author with that starts with an R. And for that I picked Roller Girl by Victoria Jamieson. And this is a story of friendship. Astrid has always done a lot of things with her best friend Nicole, but then Nicole starts to become friends with this other girl. Astrid falls in love with roller derby, and so she wants to go to a summer camp for that. And she expects Nicole to go with her, but Nicole goes to ballet camp instead with Astrid's worst enemy. And so yeah, this book was about friendship and about roller derby. I didn't know a whole lot about that, so in that sense this book was also educational. This is a graphic novel and it is, I think, middle grade. Here is some art. I quite liked the art, it was nice and colourful. And yeah, this was an enjoyable read. The next prompt is Shaggy, to read a book in your best friend's favourite genre. And for that I picked Unflattening by Sousakis. This, in broad, I would call the genre information, which is the genre I went with for my best friend's favourite genre. But this is a graphic work that is non-fiction, and it is kind of a philosophical... It's quite hard to describe this graphic work, to be honest. I believe the author used this as his thesis for, I'm not sure, his university. It's won lots of awards. And here is the description if anyone wants to pause the video and read that. It is really hard to describe this book. It starts off with Flatland, which is this famous literary work, which I haven't read, but the art's in black and white. And so this is not a read you can really read through fast, because you really need to think about it. And I found it interesting, but I also feel like some of the things said in this work just kind of went over my head, if that makes sense. I didn't quite feel like I understood everything, which is not necessarily the author's fault or anything, but that's more to do with me, I think. But a big part of the book, so this part, is notes and bibliography and references. I thought I should point that out, so actually only this is the actual content, and then you can read the notes, but you're not going to read the whole bibliography unless you're specifically interested in something. It is thought-provoking. I quite like the art, but like I said, yeah, I felt like some of it went over my head, so I can't, in all honesty, recommend this to just anyone, because I feel like it's something that you have to be interested in. Also, I have been struggling a bit with my mental energy, so it is also quite possible that some of the things that went over my head is because I was just feeling really mentally exhausted when I read this. So, yeah. But I don't regret reading it. I like the art. It was an interesting thought experiment. Then the next prompt is for Velma, and this is to read a book with a genius protagonist. And for this I read Amazing, Fantastic, Incredible, Stan Lee's memoir by Stan Lee and Peter David and Colleen Doran. Now, we can debate whether Stan Lee was a genius. It was just, I didn't have a whole lot of options for this prompt that I could think of, and this was the one I wanted to read. So I've been wanting to read this ever since I heard it mentioned on G-Swizzle's channel, and so I got the paperback when it came out, because I prefer paperback over hardcover. Yeah, and this was a very interesting memoir. It is a graphic memoir, and it is sort of drawn in comic book style. Stan Lee is well known for his influence in the comic book world regarding superheroes and Marvel and like Marvel movies and all that. Now, I personally haven't read any Marvel comic books, I think. I have seen a lot of Marvel movies. We recently saw Endgame when it just came out on Blu-ray, so we finally got it and watched it. Because I can't go to the cinema, but that's a whole other discussion. So I really like the Marvel movies. And it was really interesting in this memoir to read about Stan Lee's life and how things came to be, and read about the important people, artists. And I also like that this memoir had quite a bit of humor in it. Stan Lee uses his humor also in like the Marvel movies and the Marvel comic books. He unfortunately passed away. I really like that his humor was part of this memoir as well. The memoir goes back and forth a bit. It doesn't, not everything is done chronologically. It also sometimes has some like pictures in it of old comic books. Well, for example, here is a picture of Spider-Man comic. So yeah, I quite like reading this graphic memoir. I think if you're interested in Stan Lee and Marvel and graphic memoirs, this could be a good read. The next prompt is for Fred, and this is to read a book with white and blue on the cover. And for this I picked Best Friends by Shannon Hale and Lewin Pham. Now, there's not a whole lot of blue and white on the cover. There's the blue and there's the white. This paperback recently came out. This is sort of the sequel after Real Friends, which was a graphic memoir written by the same two people, based on Shannon Hale's childhood. And this is, well, the sequel. It takes place after that, also in her childhood, but like later. I think you can totally read this without reading that book though. But I liked Real Friends, so I decided to pick up Best Friends. I couldn't remember a whole lot of Real Friends though. But yeah, this book was enjoyable. It has to do with friendship and anxiety. Shannon goes to 6th grade and she's struggling with like making friends. She's popular, but she has trouble keeping up with like all the things that the popular girls talk about. And yeah, I enjoyed this. I'll show you some of the art. And what I liked about this book, I mean, I liked a lot of things about this book, but is that for part of the book, Shannon, this is Shannon, she writes a fantasy story. And that is in the book. The art style of that is a bit different. And parts of that are in this book. And it kind of helps her deal with things. Yeah, anyway, so this was a nice read. Then for prompt number 5, Daphne, a cover by book, I picked Hurricane Season by Nicole Malaby. Now this book was talked about by Nichi from I_read past my bedtime. And as soon as I had seen this cover, I was like, I have to have this book. I gotta add this book to my wish list because I really like colourful and illustrated covers. So this was right up my alley. And then Linda from Linda's World of Books said she was going to read this book for the ScoobyDooAthon. And we had agreed to buddy read it. So I decided to buddy read it with her then. And then I figured this could be my cover by book. Linda used it as read a book in your best friend's favorite genre. This book deals with mental health and mental illness. It is about Fig, and she, this is a middle grade book. And so Fig's father, she lives alone with her father. Her mother disappeared long ago, and her father is struggling with mental illness. And sometimes he's okay, but other times he's struggling. This was my favorite read this whole read-a-thon. This was an excellent middle grade. We read 3 chapters a day for a week, and I loved it every single day. And it was nice to know that every day of that week I had, well, almost every day, we start on Tuesday, but anyway, that I had this to look forward to read that, and it was just really good. Fig starts to explore Van Gogh and his art. It's interesting because in Dutch, and we say Van Gogh and Van Gogh, was Dutch. So, but it seemed weird to pronounce it in the Dutch way when my video's in English, but that's how we say it in Dutch. So there you go. So it was nice that this book talked about art. Fig's father is a pianist, and he used to give concerts for lots of people, which he hasn't done now in a long time. And so through Van Gogh's art, Fig tries to get closer to her dad and tries to understand him. And yeah, this was just a really good read, basically. A really good middle grade. It has LGBT elements. That's all I'll say about that, which I really appreciated, because there's not a lot of middle grades out there with that. And it was just, yeah, it was really, really good. I loved it. This was my favorite read, this readathon. And it's gonna be a favorite of the month, for sure. Then for the prompt of Scrappy Doo, we had to read a book with less than 200 pages. And for that, I picked Fruits Basket, Volume 9 by Natsuki Takaya. This book has 199 pages, so it fit. Although the last few pages are more like extras, but I did read them, so. And this continues the Fruits Basket series, which I have been reading this year, and it was nice. I'm not liking it as much as in the beginning, but I'm not entirely sure why that is. And we'll move on to the next book now, because it's actually Fruits Basket Volume 10 by Natsuki Takaya. And this was like my book for prompt 7, Scooby Snacks Do 7 book for the 7 challenges. I read 2 volumes of Fruit Basket each month, so naturally this month I wanted to read 2 as well, and it kind of made sense to read this. Same as with the last book, I enjoyed it. It does have quite a bit of characters. Like in the beginning there weren't as many characters, and then like every book, one or a few new characters were introduced, and so I find it really helpful that in the beginning it tells you all the characters, because after a month I struggle sometimes to remember who's who and what. And anyway, so if you're not new to my channel, I've talked about these books in quite a lot of videos this year, and it is a manga series about Toru Honda who starts to live with the Soma family, and the Soma family is cursed in that the members of the Soma family turn into zodiac animals from the zodiac. And then lastly we have the group book, which is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. This was the group book, and I read it. This was also the last book I read for this readathon, because I struggled through this. I thought about DNFing this a few times. This book, kind of in the line of like Scooby Doo, is about a group of characters and a dog who, when they were kids, they solved this mystery. Well, they solved lots of mysteries as kids. And then they never came back to the town, and they all went off to other places. And so many years later, they come back to the town, and it turns out the last mystery they solved was kind of unfinished. So that's why they're going back. Well, you may have seen other people review this book as well, I'm not sure, but here's the back. And first off, somehow, when I bought this book, and in people making their TBRs leading up to this, I did not realize that this was a book for adults. For some reason I thought it was middle grade. I don't know why, but that's what I thought. So then I started reading it, and I was like, this language is not suitable for middle grade. So this is a book for adults, let me put that clearly. And I kind of struggled with this book, as did most people I think who've read it for this readathon, from what I've heard. I thought it was a bit too long. It went on for too long, so I have to admit I skimmed the ending, because it was just going on too long. It did have quite a few twists, some of which I liked. I didn't jive with the writing. And there are a couple of elements to that, but one element was that sometimes, and I don't know if you can see this all right, but the text kind of turns into like a play where the character's names is at the beginning of the line, and then there is what they're saying. I don't know if you can really see that, but this is one of the occurrences. I hope you can see that. And sometimes just during the same paragraph it would jump back to normal text or the other way around, and I found that very disjointed. If it was like a chapter or something like that, or like a specific part, but it was just in the middle of a paragraph, it would switch styles, and yeah, just that seemed weird to me. Also, sometimes there were really long paragraphs in this. Like several times there was a paragraph that was just a whole page of text without any breaks or anything, just text, and I find that, yeah, that's too much for me. And I don't know, in general, I didn't really like the writing all that much. Now, I didn't mind the characters. The story went into directions that I wasn't expecting. This book has some LGBT elements in it, which one part of it I liked. I'm doing this review spoiler free. So one part of that I liked, but another part of it was, I found it questionable if it was like good representation or whether it was more harmful. So I thought about DNFing this book several times, but because so many other people were reading it for the ScoobyDooAthon, and there was a live show and everything, I thought I want to read the whole book so I can talk about it with others, all the spoilers and everything. So that's why I ended up reading the whole book. I am glad that I read the whole book, because now I like know all the spoilers and I can talk to others, but I did not like this book, which is a shame because it had some good elements. Some of these twists are genuinely like surprising and good, but I didn't like the writing, and it went on for too long. It should have been shorter, and I don't often say that about books, but really by the last part of it, I just wanted it to be over. I was like, this is going on too long. I just want to end the story and you know, finish it, stop reading it. Like, I was so done with this book. And I don't often say that, and I find it interesting, if I had read this book not knowing any of my friends' thoughts or any of, you know, people from the ScoobyDooAthon, I still wouldn't have liked it, but I don't know, like, I wonder how my feelings would have been different. So basically I went into this book knowing that I was probably not gonna like it, because I had heard from other people who had finished it earlier in the read-a-thon that they didn't like this, which kind of changed my perspective on it as well, I think. But yeah, I struggled through this, and I did think about DNFing it. I would not recommend this book, but it had interesting elements. Just somehow the whole was, I don't know, disjointed, and I kind of just lost interest after a while. So that was all the books that I read for the ScoobyDooAthon. Most of them were like graphic novels, manga, a graphic memoir, and only 2 of them were books with text. And so I think according to the rules, then you can treat yourself if you complete all the prompts. I have seen a couple of other people who talked about this. I am not sure yet how I want to do that. I don't particularly feel that accomplished, to be honest, because honestly, I've just spent maybe the last like 5 days of the ScoobyDooAthon muddling through this book. So it made me feel slumpy. I didn't really feel in the mood to read once I had read all of these, but like after that was this, and so I don't particularly feel accomplished, which is strange, but I'll think about that. Anyway, so yeah, that's my ScoobyDooAthon wrap up. I enjoyed taking part in this read-a-thon. I would not have participated had it not been for Emily, who I talked to about this, because I find it really hard to stick to prompts because I am just such a mood reader. So the only way that I could do that was with like graphic works, because they're short, so that just makes it easier. And I buddy read Hurricane Season with Linda from Linda's World of Books, which was lots of fun. This was my 3rd buddy read, just overall on YouTube. And so Hurricane Season was definitely the best book during this readathon. And unfortunately, Meddling Kids, the book, was the worst book. But that's the case for more people, so, you know, at least we can all agree, or at least most of us can agree we didn't like it. And the rest of the books were at least enjoyable. Out of the other books, I liked Stanley's memoir the best. it was fun to participate in this readathon and see people post about this and their updates on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. I enjoyed all of that content. So yeah, it was a fun readathon with fun prompts. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!